Khidir is the regional director for Latin America, Middle East, and Caribbean at Save the Children UK. And he's been in this position since 2008, but he's actually been with Save the Children UK for 20 years in different capacities. In Sudan as the National Relief Manager and Deputy Country Director, and in Nairobi, both in regional positions and as Country Director for Somalia. And at that time, he was also the NGO focal point for Somalia for 105 NGOs. Prior to joining Save the Children, Khidir worked with the Ministry of Finance in Sudan as financial analyst and for ODA, today's DFID, in a project focused on strengthening regional planning in Darfur. I'd like to emphasize that we have invited Khidir in his personal capacity, and it is in his personal capacity that he is here today. So he's not representing either Save the Children UK or other members of the Alliance. Sorry.
Okay.
Khidir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Margie. I really am delighted that you have done this study, because when I read it, I felt it is well researched. Generally, I travel a lot these days just by incident of the job, and what struck me is the issue of urbanization. I lived in Nairobi, and for those who understand, they have seen visit Nairobi, there's one slum called Kibera, which is in Africa described as one of the biggest slum in Africa. And then in Cairo, and then you go to different places where. But I think we in Sudan, we need to recognize the urbanization. I think this report, I found it is well researched. I found it also balanced in terms of extracting the information from the governments, from the IDPs, and from the private sector, and from the United Nations organization. And for me, I am a Sudanese and also Darfurian, and I am a regular visitor to Nyala, and I have family links also that live in Nyala. It adds something new to me. To be honest with you, when I read it, this is actually something new for me, and then this study, I found it is not an academic research. It's very practical. If today I switch hat and I went back to my times of the Ministry of Finance, I work in the Ministry of Finance at the central level, I work in Darfur. If today I am sitting on that, this document will help me to take some critical planning steps. And I think that is a very, very important to recognize. So I think it's very practical. If people are open-minded, and if people also have very good listening ears to what you have written, so that's one. I would like really, you have mentioned three important dates in the study, and those 1970s, which is Dar es Gawa famine, the biggest famine in Dar es Gawa, and then 1980s, which you call famines that kill, if those who read for Alex Dewal, and 2003 and 4, the conflict. Those are critical dates that contribute to the urbanization, by the way, in Nyala, but also in other centers. Even those, you can call them towns or cities, you describe them, those has been built on these critical dates. But there are, in my opinion, you have raised two driving factors, and hunger and insecurity are men, but also unemployment and poor social service. The reason I mention this, because we have to correlate these driving factors when it comes to the livelihood. What Nyala and urbanization is going to offer you. Is it that? So, and you have described the urbanization, but I just want to take you from my personal perspective. I am coming from a village, contributed to the growth of Nyala, and I have family members who have been moved to Nyala as a result of this push factor. And if we were to take key dates from 1990s, 80s, and 90s, those who are in Nyala, they are able to send cash or in-kind support to the rest members of the families. Until mid-90s. From mid-90s to 2000, I call it the break-even point. They can't send, they survive in the area, but they cannot send back to the village. And then from 2000 until 2003, the villages starting supporting their relatives who are poor in the urban context. That you have to send something in kind or something that. And then from 2004 to date, Nyala neither the villagers are able to send to the relatives in the in Nyala, nor they are sending back to their relative. And I'm talking here about, because those who are coming from the village, you don't classify that as the rich wealth group. If you have rich ranks, wealth ranks, and you're saying rich, medium, and poor, generally those who are coming from the village are between the poor to the medium. So that I felt something that need to be explored, because that will tell, to the point where I have some concern about it, will tell whether the people who came to Nyala are going to go back or not, and especially in the case of the IDPs. In my judgment, I think they'll go back. There's nothing attract them, because if you take, if there are issues of hunger, insecurity, unemployment, and social service, this report clearly articulated that the education is going down, and that is no secret. I mean, I have seen it with the children of my sisters who are there, and it's no secret. So the education going down. And then the other thing, it doesn't offer you that an employment which could help you to support, because even there are school fees from your study, there are school fees, there are certain issues. So in my judgment, the people who are, you have to look at the background of those who are coming to the city. The people who are in Kalma and Rej, they are likely to go back because they are coming from fertile land. For example, if you are coming from the Marra mountains, the mountains are very fertile. They offer a lot compared to what Nyala offering. But if you are talking with the Fallujah, which you have hinted that, Fallujah is one slum which is basically from the nomadic background. The nomadics, they have nothing to lose. I mean, so the likelihood of the nomadics going back is unlikely. But the likelihood of those who are agriculture and they have fertile land to go back is that. I am worried about this recommendation, because this recommendation, and I put it in my personal capacity here, and I have to underline that, this one, because the government is saying, if you want to get land, you have to give up your IDP status. And that has a little bit of trick on that. If you give your IDP status, then the protection of the IDPs, the compensation of those villages will be lost. And that is why I think, in my opinion, the people were reluctant to give up their IDP status. Finally, I just I think the 5 minutes is almost there. Yes. In the recommendations, I felt the recommendation is practical, but I want to focus on one recommendation which is related to that the immediate priority, both the government and the international community, is to recognize and engage with the reality of urbanization in Nyala, which I think is very strong organization, well intended. The challenge is you have a master plan. If you look for the push factors, so Nyala, the growth of Nyala is a symptom of a problem. And that problem exists at the rural areas, at the villages. So a master plan of any urban center, and I tell you, any urban center, whether in Sudan or any in other place, if it is not part of a coherent regional strategy or a coherent national strategy, then it's unlikely that master plan is. It's just like a person who have a malaria and they are vomiting, and you are treat the vomiting and don't give them the malaria things. So that has to happen. I have seen I have seen in Colombia an Islam inside one city. It's one of the ugliest Islam compared, and even I saw that I am in Africa. And one of the things is that Islam is not being addressed because has not been part of a bigger plan. Is forgotten. Is silent. Is silent. In the bigger plan, it's silent because they are Afro-Colombians, and in the bigger plan they don't appear. And therefore, it's very important that. And then the second thing, the comparative advantage. The humanitarian, we as a humanitarian agencies, and I have to say now I can come we, and without any problem, we as a humanitarian agencies, we are good at responding to in the rural areas. We are good, but in the urban context, we are good at responding on the IDPs. If we are not part of a bigger dialogue, then our capacity to respond in the urban, it will be limited. And therefore, there's no one party can take a lead. But if you try to bring the comparative advantage of the private sector, comparative advantage of the government of Sudan, national and state, comparative advantage of the international community, and the comparative advantage of the civil society, then you will be able to address the issue. So I really feel that the fact that the NGOs in service delivery, I think they will continue service delivery until there is a, trust and confidence that they can discuss and they can dialogue a strategy and a policy. Sorry, I think I exceeded my 5 minutes.
It was absolutely great. Thank you very much, Al-Khidir.